Hai teman-teman mahasiswa, bagaimana nih kabarnya? Sudah siap untuk mengikuti perkuliahan di ISD Institute? Semoga sudah siap ya. Apakah teman-teman sudah cek inbox pada akun email yang didaftarkan? Nah, sekarang coba dicek ya. Ada email dari ISD Institute untuk teman-teman. Jika tidak ada pada folder inbox, silahkan cek folder Zang atau folder spam pada email teman-teman. Nah, ketika email tersebut dibuka, terdapat pemberitahuan bahwa teman-teman sudah di-enroll atau didaftarkan pada sebuah mata kuliah. Mata kuliah ini adalah mata kuliah yang telah teman-teman pilih saat mendaftar ke universitas masing-masing. Semoga sesuai ya. Nah, sekarang teman-teman bisa klik button atau tombol berwarna biru, akses materi kursus sekarang yang ada pada email tersebut. Maka teman-teman akan diarahkan ke laman ISD Institute yang memuat mata kuliah tadi. Jika teman-teman memilih tombol Enroll Now, maka teman-teman akan diminta untuk mendaftar atau masuk terlebih dahulu. Karena teman-teman sudah terdaftar, maka teman-teman bisa memilih tombol Masuk pada pojok kanan atas. Sekarang, silakan masukkan username dan password. Setelah memasukkan username dan password, klik tombol atau button masuk. Teman-teman akan diarahkan kembali ke laman ISD Institute tadi, yang memuat mata kuliah yang diberitahukan bahwa teman-teman sudah terdaftar dalam mata kuliah atau kursus tersebut. Sekarang, teman-teman bisa mengeksplor mata kuliah tersebut dengan memilih tombol View Course. Nah, sekarang teman-teman sudah bisa mengikuti perkuliahan di ISD Institute. Jangan lupa untuk mengikuti semua sesi perkuliahan ya, mengerjakan latihan serta tugas yang diberikan hingga nanti teman-teman mendapatkan sertifikat. Oke, selamat mengikuti perkuliahan di ISD Institute yang akan memberikan pengalaman baru dan berbeda dalam proses pembelajaran masa kini. Tetap semangat ya!
Sahabat BPSDM yang kami hormati, semoga semuanya selalu dalam kondisi sehat walafiat. Izinkan kami akan menyampaikan semangat bertransformasi. Sejak tahun 2017, Badan Pendidikan dan Pelatihan berubah nama menjadi Badan Pengembangan Sumber Daya Manusia. Maka, sejak itulah tugas dan fungsi lembaga kami menjadi semakin luas. Disinilah proses itu bermula. BPSDM harus mampu menjadi dirinya sendiri sebagai organisasi pembelajar atau learning organization. Impian itu nyata. Tahun 2017, belajar merangkak menjadi organisasi pembelajar. Kemudian tahun 2018, kami berproses untuk mulai berjalan satu demi satu langkah. Kami wujudkan keinginan satu demi satu impian kami. Sungguh, impian itu nyata. Pertama, kami hadirkan elektronik layanan di BPSDM Provinsi Kalimantan Tengah berupa aplikasi psikompeten dan learning management system telah kita siapkan dan pada saat ini siap pakai dengan konsisten. Pada tanggal 21 Februari 2019, menghadirkan Kepala Lembaga Administrasi Negara, Kepala BPSDM Kementerian Dalam Negeri, Sekretaris Daerah.
Ladies and gentlemen, for the next agenda, we would like to invite Minister of Communication and Information Technology of Republic of Indonesia, Mr. Johnny G. Plate, to give the speech. To Mr. Johnny, the time is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, Salam Kebajikan. May peace and blessing be upon you all. Excellencies, Minister of Education, Culture, Research and Technology of the Republic of Indonesia, my friend Mr. Nadiem Makarim, the Ambassador of Indonesia to New Zealand, Samoa and Tonga, His Excellency Tantowi Yahya, distinguished speakers, participants, ladies and gentlemen. The disruptions caused by the COVID-19 pandemic has led many sectors, including the education sector, to become more digitally established in order to accommodate the trend of remote activity. The utilizations of technology and digital platforms amidst the COVID-19 pandemic has changed the landscape of education sector globally, with the speculation that it might continue to persist post-pandemic. During the peak of period of COVID-19 pandemic in 2020, over 1.2 billion students globally were not able to attend the class physically due to partial or full school closures. The education system was forced to adapt quickly in order to prevent learning losses and avoid generationally catastrophe. And the most practical solution available was by using digital technology to accommodate learning, resulting in the rise of education technology edutech sector. The rapid digital transformation, together with the advent of digital technologies such as cloud-based learning management system, has enabled global industries to respond quickly, generating accelerative growth in the sector of education technology. In the year 2020, the global e-learning market size had already surpassed $250 billion and is currently expected to continue to grow at a compound annual growth rate of 21% through 2027, with the valuation of $1 trillion. Specifically, the Asia-Pacific region is forecasted to have learning management system market growth with a compound annual growth rate of 19.7% during the period of 2021 to 2028, becoming the fastest growing region in terms of learning management system market in the world. In Southeast Asia, education technology has also found its momentum to grow rapidly and resiliently. Funding in this sector in Southeast Asia has reached $250 million in 2020 and around $200 million in the first half of 2021 this year. This confirms EduTech's status as a new frontier and nascent sector that has been accelerating rapidly since the COVID-19 pandemic. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, considering the importance of establishing an adequate and accessible EduTech during this era of digital acceleration, the Ministry of Communication and Informatics of the Republic of Indonesia has carried out efforts in distributing strong and reliable connectivity in Indonesia. As of second quarter 2021 this year, we have provided internet access to more than 4,400 schools across the country, which accounts to 38.47% of total existing internet access nationally. Furthermore, the launch of Satria-1 satellite by the end of 2023 is expected to generate reliable connectivity in 93,000 schools throughout the archipelago. Strong awareness on the need of equipping human resources with current trend of digital skills, including related to the computer programming, is also crucial. As one highlighted by the President Joko Widodo, learning to code is more important than learning English. Against this backdrop, we established a competency improvement training program for ICT teachers called Coding Teacher Academy, which is expected to give more opportunity for teachers in Indonesia to learn more about coding and familiarize their students with the related skills. This program is currently in pause due to pandemic, but it is expected to recommence in the upcoming year. As we foresee the digital era to accelerate even more during pandemic, the need of creating digital talent has been shifted to be one of Indonesia's main priorities in advancing EduTech. Digital Leadership Academy is one of the non-formal education programs we have initiated in order to equip leaders to drive change toward digital transformation. During his speech on November 18 this year, the President of Indonesia has appreciated this program, emphasizing on the effort to create larger impact through partnerships. In this program, we have collaborated with 4 top-ranked universities with different teams respectively. They are National University of Singapore on the subject of digital transformation in smart city, Tsinghua University on the subject of digital transformation in digital business, Harvard University on the subject of digital transformation in government, innovating public policy and service, and leading smart policy design, and University of Oxford on the subject of digital transformation, theory, policy, and practices. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the global pandemic has heightened existing gaps and disparities throughout the education sector. However, the presence of digital technology has shown other insights on how education is going to be shaped in the future. Education in the future will also further synergize with technology in order to overcome challenges faced by students and educators in gaining and sharing knowledge. Emerging technology in the form of artificial intelligence, virtual or augmented reality, machine learning, and other forms of technological developments is going to alter education tools and institutions and changing what lies ahead in education. For example, the use of AI has provided personalized response to students that will help them during the study process. Virtual reality may create immersive virtual environment that allows its users to engage imagination and creativity. Cloud technology has made assignments, educational resources, and learning materials accessible from any device. Benefits of technology usage in education is nearly limitless. We need to continuously learn how to coexist and conform with its growth so we may harness the full potentials of it and come up with a more exceptional innovations onwards for more connected, more digital, and more prosperous Indonesia. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom. Om Santi, Santi, Santi Om. Namo Buddhaya.
Thank you, Mr. Johnny, for the speech. And next, we would like to invite Mr. Libing Wang, Chief of Section of Educational Innovation and Skill Development, EISD Bangkok, Thailand, to give the keynote speech. But before that, we're going to check out his profile.
Thank you very much. Greetings from UNESCO Asia and the Pacific Regional Bureau for Education based in Bangkok, Thailand. Thanks for the invitation to this very important meeting. And today I would like to share with you a very important topic on mainstreaming online and blended learning in higher education through supportive ecosystems. This key word is mainstreaming, because in the past, online and blended learning are not regarded as a quality provision. As you can see, online learning was largely perceived as a supplement to real learning in a traditional classroom setting before the COVID-19 pandemic. It's quite obvious. We have seen a lot of efforts to promote online learning in the past. We have open university system. We go beyond this traditional mediums of instruction, which is very low technology, like TV and video, and also we used to have distance education by correspondence. But actually, with the development of technology, you can see a lot of possibilities of promoting online learning, virtual learning. But to be honest, we have to see that before the pandemic, online learning is not that appreciated as a quality provision of education, because people have less confidence in the quality of online learning activities. because of lack of infrastructure support. As you know that we are now in the 5G of internet access, but it's not available to everybody. And the accessibility to the 5G and also the other supportive infrastructure is not that enough. So normally through this virtual learning, students used to have the experience of very bad work learning experiences. And also on the part of the faculties and also the teaching personnel, they are not well trained to provide online learning programs. And at the system level, you can also see that recognition of online learning is not very much established at the system level because all the qualifications require students to attend in-person sessions. And at the institutional level also, apart from open university system, the traditional normal conventional university, it's not that easy, to recognize, and they see in-person provision as one of their advantage. And program level also, when we are designing different levels of learning program, it's not being that much based on online learning. So, and the course level also, teachers are not allowed to prepare their lessons online in the past. So it's not that easy. And for UNESCO, around 6 years ago, after the adoption of the SDG 4, which is quality education for all, we initiated and piloted this online and blended learning program in many countries. Actually, you can see, in some countries like Australia, even the conventional university, they shift the provision of their programs into online and the blended modality. And I was still impressed by the division of the online and the offline learning sessions. Some universities maybe put it 50 to 50. Some even, online is more than 50% of all the teaching hours. It's not a kind of trying to reduce the cost of in-person instruction. Actually, online learning has a lot of advantages, and especially, nothing to do with the pandemic. I think online education alone, they have a lot of advantages, especially this kind of learning experiences and the sharing of online resources. I will come back on this later. So in the year 2016, we launched a very important project on promoting online and blended learning in the universities. I think the pandemic has changed a lot of the way we are considering education, and it's also changed fundamentally the way education is accessed, is delivered, and also is evaluated. As you can see now, we are still in the pandemic. Lockdown happened quite often, and the travel restrictions are always, accompanied with even physical distancing, which is really led to the unprecedented disruption of campus and classroom-based learning. I'm not sure in Indonesia if the in-person class is already resumed, or you are still on online learning mode. But whether you like it or not, online learning has become the most sought after solution for us to continue to maintain the continuity of learning. And I have to say that many people just regard this as a backup or contingency plan. But actually, what I would like to say is that this is really a good opportunity for us to mainstream mainstream online and blended learning, which is really very, very important. And also the real demand for education during the pandemic has really generated a very significant momentum to reimagine the role of technology in the delivery of and the quality of higher education programs. We have to go online. Whether you are ready or not, you can see in many of the countries, they are in this online modality of delivery, and it's not that easy, But I know that UNESCO is promoting high tech, low tech, and no tech solutions to keep continuity of learning. And I think in a country like Indonesia, I think you also need to be flexible to seek high tech, but also low tech and no tech solutions. Like radio, TV and the radio is also a means of of instruction. And I think it's really important to think of the use of technology, actually, because of the pandemic. It's really very, very crucial to keep continuity of learning through the use of technology. I think the new normal is quite clear, as we can see that there will be no returning to the old normal, in-person or physical, type of instruction learning, and should not be returning, completely. I know that in many countries there are a lot of questions on the quality of online learning, but clearly we can see that returning to the old normal is not really the way forward. But of course, on 100% online is also not realistic, even desirable, as you can see. So offline learning, online and offline learning, both have their advantages and limitations to be maximized and minimized, as you can see. Now, for us also, for myself, I haven't been out, for almost 2 years, and all the meetings are online. Of course, a lot of advantages, we do not need to pay for hotels, for traveling, for flights, and also it's easier, to set up a virtual meeting. People seems to be not only just one click away, right? And today, even before this, I already had 2 meetings, virtual meetings. It's very effective. And for UNESCO, we use our very limited budget to content development rather than paying for hotels and flights. It's really a way for us to rethink of our spending. But at the same time, as you know, we miss a lot of each other and miss our friends, our colleagues, And sometimes in-person, a meeting is also very, very, how can I say, for socializing, for really engagement, So it also applies to learning. I think online and offline learning all have their advantage and the limitation to be maximized and minimized. Blended learning, it's very much being promoted by us now. And it's being regarded as the new normal. Of course, another term called hybrid learning for school education. I know that's almost the same, I think. But for UNESCO Bangkok, we did a lot on promoting blended learning. And we already collected a lot of good practices, the policy and the practices from countries in the region. And we are now thinking of scaling up these good practices to more countries and higher education institutions. And I think in Indonesia, you also have a lot of good practices, I'm sure. And from the, His Excellency, the Minister of Education, just, share with us a lot of good experiences from Indonesia. But I think the thing is that the new normal is already clear, but we also need to develop a very supportive ecosystem to mainstream the new normal, which is really very important. And I would like to say that the Sustainable Development Goal 4.3, which is about higher education and TVET, actually, tertiary education, which cannot be achieved without supportive ecosystem to address gaps in capacity across different domains. I think mainstreaming is the key word for my presentation. And I would like to say that mainstreaming is really a process of policy and for it to happen, which is really very important. Otherwise, it's just being on paper, And the policy support from the government is very important. And we need to have a strong government support on this, on the shift to online and blended learning. We also need to see the infrastructure development and upgrading. As you know, that actually online shopping is now more very popular, but online learning is not that accepted, right? Because of the infrastructure, because of the recognition, because of the supportive ecosystem. Online shopping, we are quite used to it, but online learning is still some way to go. And of course, institutional capacity building. At the institutional level, we need to have very, very good infrastructure also. And also professional development of the faculty to get our teachers ready to deliver this online and blended learning and integrate this into program development and course planning, and even, you know, equip our teachers with the necessary pedagogy, online learning pedagogy. Of course, partnership and networking is also very important as a university. I think we need to work with private sector, with you know, with other universities, you know, try to establish a consortium, you know, for the shifting of teaching and learning to online and then blended modality. I think for the use of technology in teaching and learning in higher education, I think it's contributing to access, quality, and equity, which are the three pillars of higher education policies. I think in any country, we are promoting access to make higher education benefiting more people, more students, especially those from disadvantaged background. And I think for quality also, the use of technology is really gives learners more learning resources, right? I still remember when I was studying at a university, the only teaching and learning materials are paper-based. And we use a lot of the physical university library. And the purchasing of books and the professional journals are very critical. We have to budget for it, right? And even for some international, you know, teaching and learning resources, it's not that easy to get. Now, I think the teacher no longer has the monopoly of knowledge, which they used to have, you know, because they can get more access to teaching and learning materials. But now with the development of internet, you know, internet has becoming the biggest open educational resources. And even, you know, with some knowledge platforms like Wikipedia, like, you know, many other, you know, we can learn by ourselves. And the information is really very, very, you know, sometimes, you know, students can get more information than the teachers, right? We were joking that maybe the only value of the teachers is to provide guidance on methodological issues, you know, rather than content, because in terms of content, it's being also more accessible on internet, and the students can get access easily. So do not necessarily get all the knowledge from the teachers. They can get a lot more knowledge from internet. So I think it's the use of it's also contributing to quality and excellence of higher education, and of course the use of technology is also important to make our higher education learning program more diverse, more flexible, more adaptive and relevant to the needs of the communities and the individuals, because we can develop some individualized learning programs, which is very much relevant to needs of the individuals. We have, for UNESCO recently, we like a term very much, which is called agile, quick to respond to the needs of very agile. And I think this term also led us to think of a new way of developing our learning programs. In the past, we know that for first degree, a student need to have to spend 4 years for first degree, right? 4 years bachelor degree in many of the countries. It's very long, actually. And now we are proposing these micro-credentials. Micro-credentials can be developed, you know, only on 1 month basis, 2 months basis, you know, short-term basis, right? And which is, of course, quite relevant to the specific needs, right? And very agile to the needs of the country. And I still remember that some years ago, Google launched a course which only lasts for half a year, which equals to maybe 2 years study program, and it was really recognized by the industry. And I think these courses are quite small in size, in terms of duration, but this is what we are thinking of, these micro credentials, you know, which is agile. But on the other hand, you know, for UNESCO, we are also thinking of the holistic approach of education. Sometimes, you know, education cannot be aiming only for immediate gains, you know, because the benefits of education, it has a long-term implications. And we need to be patient with our education rather than losing our patience, you know. 4 years too long, and it's a waste of time sometimes, you know. So we need to have a balance of this holistic approach to higher education, but also this relevance, you know, flexibility, diversity, you know, all these kind of values and principles. So I think with the use of technology, it's all possible, and even more possible if we are aiming to promote the learning to be more diverse, flexible, adaptable, and relevant. Actually, we are going to do some study on micro-credentials on credit bank system, and we are also going to do something on the way that students can accumulate their learning with different credits to be deposited into the credit bank, which is actually a learning management system, right? At the institution level, but also at national level, so that you can accumulate these credits once it's being in line with the qualification framework. Once you have enough credits, required for full qualifications, and you can. So I think in the future it's very interesting. I just want to say that maybe the physical type of university in the future can be an institution to validate learning experiences, learning credits, rather than only the provider of these learning experiences. Students can choose to learn, with different providers through the support of technology. But of course, all these learning programs should be accredited in line with the qualification framework. And of course, ICT is also very important to make the system, learning system, more resilient to overcome future disruptions to learning. So we have a big lessons to learn from this pandemic, and I think every country is working very hard to upgrade their infrastructure and to see if we can be future ready learning system to be. Of course, when it comes to ecosystem at the national level, I think national policy are very important. And we need to see national visions, policies, and initiatives for online and blended learning in higher education. I think for the Tokyo Convention, as you know, which is about recognition of higher education qualifications, we are now discussing the recognition of online and blended learning. And just before this session, we had a very successful workshop on the work plan for the next year of the Tokyo Convention Committee and Asia Pacific Network of National Information Centers. And I think one of the priorities will be the recognition of online and blended learning for higher education. And I think it's quite difficult, actually, as far as we know from the policies and practices from member states. But we are now moving towards this direction. And UNESCO will be thinking of developing guidelines on the recognition of online and blended learning. And there's a lot of considerations. For example, when we are thinking of the recognition, which we very much based on reducing the substantial difference among qualifications offered from different countries. But substantial difference is not only about duration of study, and also the modality of delivery, like online and offline. It's also about what kind of learning outcomes you would like to achieve. And we very much hope that learning outcomes that are identified in the national qualifications framework and subject-specific quality standards can be the basis for us to assess substantial difference in learning outcomes rather than only thinking of durations of study and the modalities of delivery. I think this is very important. Otherwise, flexibility and the diversity of learning programs, it cannot be achieved, actually. And the very basis is really the national qualification framework, which are defining learning outcomes in terms of knowledge and understanding, in terms of skills and capacity, in terms of values, attitudes. We have 3 dimensions of learning outcomes, which is not only about something which can be tested, but also about many things that cannot be tested, which we also call it social emotional skills, right? It's transversal skills, right? So I think we would like to see a high level upstream policy framework from the government. Of course, we have a lot of decentralized higher education system, but if you have a look at what happened in the United Kingdom, which is traditionally very decentralized system, from the 1990s, they started developing this national qualifications framework and even subject-specific quality standards, subject, how can I say, and the program specification templates, which is very much external quality assurance measures. So we would like to see national level QA mechanism, of course, for online and blended learning to be developed and implemented, so that these relevant credits and qualifications, and even micro-credentials or prior learning, can be recognized within the national qualifications framework. I think this is really very important. Otherwise, you know, we will be facing the risk of learning fragmentation. Everybody is designing a learning program which cannot be connected with each other, which is not. I think we need to avoid this, and we need to have a strong national qualification framework. We also need to see the countries to operationalize this national qualification framework at subject level, at occupational level when it comes to TVET, also at professional level when it comes to professional occupation. As you know that basically, you know, we divide different jobs into 3 categories. Of course, first is very academic. Second is, I think, is vocational, which is very much traditional skill-based. And combine this skill-based and the academic work is the professional, right? Which is combining operational pre-clinic courses to clinical courses. And this is professional, right? So, of course, if you want to work in the university, it's very professional, it's very academic, but professions like teacher, like, you know, medical doctors, they are very professional. But of course, vocational occupation is going, you know, the boundary is blurring. There's no very clear-cut, you know, distinctions, you know. So, and of course, also, we also need to have a template for program development with a suggestion on the design of online and blended learning programs. This is for the teachers, you know, and for the program development. So this is something, you know, we would like to see starting from very upstream national qualification framework down to specific subject-specific quality standards, and then to program development tools and course planning. So this is, I think, we would like to see academic infrastructure. But of course, it's also not enough. I would like to say that on top of academic infrastructure, we also need to think of the development of physical infrastructure. Of course, this is internet connection. And also, as you know, that we are now transforming from 4G to 5G, right? Which is really very important. I mean, the transmission connection speed is much, you know, faster than the previous generation. And even, you know, for the medical profession, you know, even surgery can be done remotely because of the speed of this connection, transmission of data. It's possible. So I think for education and learning, we can have very good learning experiences. Like now, there's no disruption, and I think interaction can be very easy and very helpful. So this infrastructure is a challenge for many countries, for many developing countries, and I think it's really time for us to invest this physical infrastructure, internet connection. And of course, we also need to think of develop a common e-learning platform. And I think Indonesia already have, and the communication portals and the platforms. We would like to encourage government to establish this kind of portals, but also encourage private sector and also higher education institutions to really jointly develop this kind of online learning portals. But on top of this kind of infrastructure, I think content is still very important. We cannot always say, oh, infrastructure. If there's a good infrastructure, but content is very poor, then it's not going to be a very good quality higher education. So as you know that e-content development, online subject-specific portals of MOOCs, and open educational resources is really very important. Yeah, we are aiming for the development and the sharing and the universal access of quality teaching and the learning materials, which is really very important. Again, I would really bring you back to the days when I was in the university. You know, so the difference of quality between good university and a bad university is really the content, the textbooks, and the way to deliver textbooks between different professors from different universities, right? This is really very, very interesting, you know. And now, with the support of the technology, content sharing is much more easier, right? As long as there's no copyrights issue. That's why UNESCO is very keen to promote the idea of open educational resources, under which you do not need to pay for use, reuse, revise, even, you know, adapt this content into your local context. You do not even need to pay, right? And we know that a lot of quality textbooks and quality contents, they are very expensive. They are beyond, you know, the capacity of many of the universities and also students. So we have internet, which is, I said, it's the biggest platform for open educational resources, but it's not well organized. If we can really think of developing this content MOOCs platform, which can be much more organized, you know, under the national qualifications framework, and it can be monitored, evaluation, you know, all these kind of things can be in place, which is really make difference. So now we can see that really the quality of education, higher education, is depending on the quality not only of the platforms, but also the content of the learning process. So this is really very important. And of course, we also would like to push for the supply of quality software to empower faculty members. And I think open educational resources maybe started with the provision of free courseware, right? And now it's being you know, extended to cover teaching and learning materials and also research materials, right? So I still remember that there are a lot of obstacles to get access to quality teaching and learning materials and also quality research materials. You have to be join the membership, right? You have to be, sometimes you have to pay, right? So here I would like to say really, when we are talking about online and blended learning, we also need to know what the content, the way to present the content, you know, in the form of MOOCs and based on open educational resources. And I said nothing is free, right? So government is really should think of making all government-sponsored content and knowledge products to be under open educational resources, or make it mandatory. You know, I think it's very important, and also universities also need to think of making not every courses, you know, free of charge, but you need to really budget for some of the quality courses and programs to be put under open educational resources as part of your social commitment, as a university's return to the public, because you are financed by the taxpayers' money, right? And you need to share responsibilities. And I think there are a lot of course, for some sensitive content, also something which is confidential. Of course, you cannot put it under this open access. But otherwise, this is very important. I think physical infrastructure, which is about this internet connections. It's also about platforms, but also about content. So at the university level, I think it's very important that university should also have a vision on online and blended learning. Now it's being changed a lot, actually, compared with the perception of the university leaders, in 10 years ago. Now it's being more, acceptable to the university leaders on online and blended learning, right? When I was teaching, in the university, we are not allowed to teach online. They said you try to avoid your workload, right? You try to skip your teaching time, and you prefer to go online, right? And some professors, indeed, they are very busy in research, in social connections, and they sometimes decided to shift their teaching online, and it's not allowed by the university, by the university assessment system, evaluation system, right? So, but now I think it's more open. I think many of the university leaders are really open to online and blended learning. Online learning is not only part for adult education or just for outreach courses, right? It's been mainstream even with the, I think, the conventional study programs. So this is really a big shift of modalities. And I think this is really very important. Of course, it's easy to talk, then get it, then done, right? So I think it's important that we need to translate institutional planning on online and blended learning into concrete internal templates, workflows, and the regulations. Right? This is really important. We can see that some of the universities, beautiful planning, strategic planning, but it's not supported by budget, by staffing, by change of templates and the workflows and the regulations. So they are still on paper, beautiful on paper, but it's cannot be implemented, right? And of course, also we would like to encourage higher education institutions to establish teaching and learning support center with a mandate to facilitate innovative teaching and learning practices and provide continuing professional development programs for the faculty members. I know that every university, you have a computing center, right? Used to be the center that only give teachers ICT literacy, but I think it's not enough. We need to promote for the ICT pedagogy, even quality assurance and content integration. We know that school teacher, I was used to say that the difference between university professor and the school teacher is that school teachers, they do a lot on pedagogical studies, but less studies on content. But for university professors, they are good in doing content, subject-specific research, but they are not that like doing pedagogical studies, right? So I think pedagogy is equally important for university professors, and you are good at research does not necessarily mean you are good at teaching. Right? A lot of examples, So I think teaching and learning supporting center, and we used to also to say that for universities, we need to turn this vice president or vice rector or pro-vice chancellor in charge of academic affairs, turn this post to be professional post with people recruited from social learning science, from pedagogy, from quality assurance, right? And we can also brand these people as a chief learning scientist or chief learning architect. Like for every bank, you have a chief economist, right? University is a learning organization. And I think we need to have somebody who are specialized in learning science, in ICT and pedagogy, right? To be able to develop an overarching institutional visions for teaching and learning, right? Which is in line with national qualifications framework. So it can be bridging, this external international national qualification framework with the internal template of program development and course planning templates, right? We have seen a lot of disconnections actually, and a lot of external standards are not implemented and also not internalized, in many of the universities. So this can be one of the things. And of course, for university, it's also quite important that we develop and maintain online learning portals and repositories of specific subject-specific e-content. We can share, this MOOCs and e-content with other universities, and every university cannot be good in every subject. So actually, we can work together, right, to establish a consortium of universities with the sharing of resources. So this is really the way we need to think. Of course, I think down to program development and course planning, this is very much at operational level, right? We would like program development, something like a PhD in psychology or applied psychology, or master in economics, or bachelor in something, These kind of study programs should be aligned with upstream frameworks, external, whether it is external or internal, like national qualification framework, subject-specific quality standards, institutional visions and frameworks for teaching and learning. So it's quite coherent, with each other, rather than, operation separately. And of course, we can see when it comes to specific learning program, and course planning, course objectives, learning outcomes, and the modules of learning, whether it's online or offline, it should be the same. Learning outcomes should be the same. Learning content and the learning outcome should be the same. But what different is the modality of delivery, pedagogical consideration, the learning assessment, and learning resources, which is quite different between online and offline, right? The modality of delivery, of course, blended and online learning, which are different also in pedagogy, right? And the learning assessment is also quite different. For the sharing of learning resources, which is really different. And of course, the percentage of online and offline learning should depend on the nature and the needs of the study programs and courses, as you know. And we are also proposing that blended learning does not only mean combination of online and blended offline learning. It's also a combination of formal, non-formal, and informal learning, which means when we are implementing a course, a classroom cannot be the only learning venue for students. We can even promote community-based learning, experiential learning, and also other non-formal and informal learning activities should be recognized. as part of the learning under these courses. So this is really very, very interesting. Of course, I don't want to spend too much time on this, but just want to wrap up that first, online and blended learning will be the new normal after the pandemic, which is really transforming teaching and learning in higher education. We need to be ready for it, whether you are teachers, you are students, you are higher education institutions, whether you are government departments or organizations in charge of higher education. We need to be ready for it. And creating a good supportive ecosystem is very important. We need to join hands to create accessible and a supportive ecosystem to make the new normal happen efficiently and effectively, right? And of course, equity and excellence cannot be achieved without functional ecosystem, right? It's only on paper, right? We need to really think of legalizing, regulating, empowering, financing, and incentivizing online and blended learning to make this really mainstream. This is the other way forward. And the ecosystem mapping can help to identify gaps and prioritize solutions. And of course, UNESCO is very happy, will be very happy to work with our colleagues in Indonesia. We have a very good relationship, and we've done a lot in the past, and I hope that we can have something, we can do something together in the years to come. Thank you very much for your attention. I leave with you some of the resources which you can scan to download some of our publications. I think the first is about blended learning for quality higher education, which is exactly the outcome of our stock-taking exercise in the year 2016, and even before the pandemic. And the second one is really about guideline on implementing qualifications framework, which we tested in two subject areas. One is educational studies, another is cultural heritage management. And the last is a policy brief, which is on building ecosystem for online and blended learning, advancing equity and excellence in higher education in Asia Pacific. So you can scan and download, yeah, that's all from me. Thank you again. Thank you very much again for listening. Thank you. I will hand over back to the MC. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Libing Wang, for the keynote speech. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we have now come to the end of the plenary session. We would like to thank you for your presence and active participation. Hopefully, this event will be beneficial to everybody, especially on the important issues discussed. We also want to thank our sponsors that support this event. Thank you for Epson, Complus, Acer, Telkomsel, Google, Fujitsu, Microsoft, and Revo. Please visit our website at isodelexpo.kemdikbud.go.id to enjoy the immersive experience. And ladies and gentlemen, tomorrow we still have a lot of speakers with interesting topics. And also we will have parallel session for paper presentation. You can join through ISODEL Expo 2021 platform. And don't forget to upload today's activity on your social media and tag us on our Instagram account at ISODEL_2021 and Facebook page ISODEL. On the screen now is the QR code for you to scan to download the presentation material. Well, ladies and gentlemen, once again, thank you very much. Good afternoon and see you again tomorrow. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.